Welcome to our podcast offerings, where we invite you to take responsibility for your own well being, reclaim your energetic sovereignty, embody authentic living, and come home to your true self. We are two sisters, two oceans apart. Maya Lotz from the Energy for Life Wellbeing Practice, and Sandy Lotz-Weiner from the Inspired Life Coaching Practice. Together, we bring you the Ocean of Abundance podcast and lots of possibilities to engage with when you choose to align with the wisdom of nature. We continue our conversation about the Reiki precepts, and today we are going to be discussing, for today only, be compassionate. Welcome, Sandy.
Good morning, Maya.
Before we dive into our discussion, as a reminder, here is our Ocean of Abundance version of the precepts. For today only, let go of anger, let go of worry, be grateful, be honest, be compassionate. So today we are looking at the last precept, be compassionate. And it's an interesting one again, because in the earlier days when I started with Reiki, it was be kind and loving to others. And for me, that's interesting because a key component, self, was left out of that precept. So it was one that I wholeheartedly embraced, because at that point I had that sense of do outward. And now in the Reiki community, we've turned the wheel and we've come back to the importance of self first. Because when this cup is empty, there's not a lot to give. What are your thoughts, Sandy?
Totally. And then something that came up for me while you were speaking is it is so in alignment, that thought that I have to start on the outside by practicing it on someone else, which is great. But it's so in line with how we think about even life and career. We're always postponing the happy moment or the what comes then after an achievement. Some people go through their entire lives thinking that if they get the corner office and they get the CEO job and the higher salary, then something better will be coming. And I think with compassion, we do the same thing. And we have now learned as a society that it's about the now, finding whatever you're looking for in the now, not to postpone to another moment, to go and search for it outside of yourself. And that's kind of turning the whole thinking process upside down. And when that happens, you might have two schools of thought, two camps of people. It's a change of thinking. So we might even sit with resisting a little bit. What do you think?
I think growing up with that sense of now don't be selfish, think of others, that was very much imprinted in me. That when I wasn't feeling good or happy in myself, I had to put others above my needs. It's only in later years that I realized own needs need to be met. Otherwise, even the giving outwardly ends up being problematic. And I've heard many practitioners also speak of the sense of burnout, because you are then ending up working from an empty well, or perhaps thinking you need to draw from self to give others. And I'm relieved that we have reopened the conversation and that the insights have come in that it is Reiki flowing to us and through us. It's not my energy I'm giving to another, one. And two, therefore, I need to do self practice. I need to take self care with my daily practice and my Reiki lifestyle, being Reiki, so that I then have not only presence for other, but presence for self. And then working with others feels so much lighter, easier.
I agree. It makes me think of money. If you have no money in your savings account or in your bank account, you really couldn't give money, but you can still give in a different form. You can give presence or wisdom or loving touch. You can give something, but it's easier for us to see that than when we look at energy. I didn't take care of my own needs. I didn't make sure that I have enough in my bank account. Therefore, I can't give you a check, but I can give you volunteer hours, right? When we're thinking of giving our energy to somebody, it's harder to measure unless we're self-aware. And I think that was the part that turned us from giving to others first, because that's how we were socialized. When we started becoming aware and self-aware, we started moving into, well, wait a minute, if I can't take care of me, what part of me am I giving to you?
Yeah. And it's not that you're not going to give to others. Somewhere along the line, I picked up also the phrase of start your day with self, then the divine, and then others. So you wake up in the morning and check in with the self first. What is here for me? Do journaling, set your day up, and then do your Reiki practice and your other practices, and then connect to the people and the world and the activities of the day. And just that adjustment led to more self compassion and therefore also more compassion towards others. And I can hear or become aware more quickly when I'm needing more self care, like maybe my languaging, or maybe I become a little bit more opinionated or a little bit more judgy or a little tetchy. And that is a cue to go, it's actually not about the other person or the issue. It's about, hello, I'm over here. There is something I need: watering, feeding, extra sleep, extra rest, whatever it may be.
Right. So you're talking about you've noticed that you're reaching capacity and that you have to take a little bit of a breather, pause, self nurture, self nourish, so that you can create more space for something else from outside of you that might need your attention. So that's actually good for the receiver and the giver. You know what I mean? It's mutually beneficial.
And I think we struggle with that if we look at sort of in a family setup or in just the way the world is situated. We feel bad. We feel like we let them down. And then we will stay in a room where we know we've overstayed. And then maybe a little uncomfortable conversation follows or some sense of conflict. But actually, if you're aware, I need to step out. So there's that sense of guilt, I guess, that comes in. It's a learning curve, because even as I became aware of being more compassionate to self in order then to also be more compassionate to others, maybe the word expectations come in here, or my projections, or the stories one tells yourself. So I know, I feel I have enough of here, whether it's the tea party or whatever situation you find yourself in, and now you want to exit. And so instead of honoring own needs, I then start telling all the stories about how I mustn't disappoint this one, or my husband won't understand if I go to bed now, or what about the kids? And actually, the kids will benefit if the mommy has the rest, and so will the husband and the colleagues and the friends. But to acknowledge and honor what your being needs.
Absolutely. Because when we're reaching that capacity, or when we notice that we're running out of patience with what's showing up, we probably gonna we could find ourselves in a place where our inner child tries to run the show, because that's really what we're talking about. We have that that inner child is always there, right? And when we go through stressful periods, sometimes we start acting like a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old or a teenager with the neediness. So if we're aware of that and we say, oh, wait, interesting, my 7-year-old is showing up. What does she need today? Once I take care of her, then the adult self will show up again where we know that others are sovereign beings and can take care of themselves. It's not my job to make them feel a certain way. My job is to take care of me and then to show up fully present to the moment and to what is showing up.
And it's interesting, quite a few things came up for me there because there's that sense of who am I comparing myself to if I don't honor myself in that moment?
So,
Am I slipping into comparison where I compare myself to another's standard? Like they are able to stay longer, or they still seem to be able to keep up with whatever is going on. So therefore, I need to be able to do it too.
right. Do you think that might stem from when we start feeling not enough, which is such a core feeling for many of us in different situations?
Yeah, and I think that's key. There's the sense of not feeling enough and I ought to do this now. Both of those, I think. And you don't feel enough because, again, it's that sense of maybe you're tired, maybe you're hungry, maybe you've just had your full of whatever activity you're busy with.
Right. So that's interesting you made that point because not being able to give more in the moment, whether it's presence, energy, compassion, doesn't mean I'm not enough. It just means in this moment, I've reached capacity. I need to go to the gas station and fill up my gas tank. I need to recharge my cell phone.
And then not to compare yourself to another vehicle. As you said, I am a sovereign energetic being, and maybe I'm a Fiat and you're a VW, and we have different needs and engines. But also just coming into, yeah, as you said, to try and remember in those moments, I am a sovereign being. This sovereign being has these needs now, and not to then ignore this sovereign being that is me because I'm projecting stories, or I think it's my responsibility to take care of another sovereign being.
Right. And I think when we overstay, over accommodate, we could possibly show up from a neediness because our needs aren't met. So we're going to be like trying to get it from somewhere else, or we are just unpleasant to be around energetically. So it's in my highest good to go and take care of me, but it's also in the best interest of everybody around me to go and take that 20 minutes or half an hour to step away, regroup, and come back.
And what struck me now is like this episode is going to come out around the start of what would be holiday season for many people. And that's where everybody gets a bit tetchy around family or friends because we suddenly spend this inordinate amount of time around other people and then often neglect that self care. And the whole experience can be so much more pleasant if you remember to have the compassion to yourself. Because, as you say, if you're not compassionate to yourself, say in that social gathering, then you are going to end up not being compassionate to whomever you're around.
Would be easy to slip into neediness or grumpiness or judging or criticizing, or you just energetically are not vibing very high. if you look at energy. It's as simple as that. And you're right about the family thing and holidays. And when we do these gatherings, whether it's family or conferences, if we let go of our own self-care daily practices to try and accommodate, we probably have a limited amount of time we can do that for before our bodies are going to register that as stressful. So dare I say neglect, self-neglect. And then we are going to energetically show up not our best self. And so maybe it's not about avoiding these things, it's about knowing these things and planning to still take care of myself, even though I'm going to spend extended time with others. And I'm chuckling here because as we speak, I am planning to spend Christmas with you guys, my family in South Africa. And those thoughts have gone through my head. We have different lifestyles. And so we are going to be putting this compassion thing to the test over an extended period of time.
Yeah. So in those family scenarios, you then slip back into the old roles, or someone takes the lead. And actually, now it's all adults, it's not children. And that's a big one for people. How do we allow everyone to be true to themselves when we are all gathered together? I guess it's a daily exercise, but certainly within families, or as you say, if you're in 5-day conference situations as well or something, those things become a challenge.
Yeah, the visual that comes up for me is if you look at the planets, how do we, if we, each of us would be an individual, either a planet, star in the universe, how do we keep rotating for ourselves while circling in the universe without dropping out of the sky? How do we keep that force going without bumping into one another? That's really what we want to do. It's like we want to keep dancing in harmony, enjoying one another's company. It's almost like this, the sun doesn't stay indefinitely, it moves around and then it comes back. So if we can mimic that when we're in bigger gatherings, it's like an in and out, not a constant in your space. We could probably hold that position for longer.
I think that's such a beautiful analogy. These planets orbiting and circling one another. And as you say, not there all the time. But I also thought suddenly you were mentioning the little inner child. And when we are in those family situations, the little inner child comes up because, say, siblings, then suddenly you revert. If you're not conscious and aware of your needs, that's where somewhere along the line someone regresses, and then everyone just scaffolds into that. And as you say, ideally, if you can remember, I'm just orbiting here. And again, that's calling self to order, reminding self, what do I need? Oh, I need a little breather here, and taking good care of self, because then the whole group interaction is healthier.
Right. And the only other vision I get is, and we know that, is the inner child needs to learn to share that sandbox. Like children play in a park in a sandbox or something. Or we can teach our own inner child it's okay to share a sandbox with another child or another person. And so it's just a practice. Maybe if we just see these family gatherings as practices to see how far we have grown, maybe.
And I think that's key, because we were saying what inspired us here, or what led us to move from our grief series and then into the Reiki as nature and in nature and true nature and onto the precepts was our own desire to live the Reiki, to be the Reiki. And absolutely, as you then say, every moment, including this coming together with family in a holiday setting, that is part of your journey, your growth, your practice.
Right, that becomes the gym where we actually practice it in real life situations. We're not just related to one another in theory, living two oceans apart. At some point, we have to come together and practice being harmonious siblings.
And I think it's very important because that in a way is what reignited this journey for me. And Reiki was always there in the practice, but one of the insights was we can have all these intellectual ideas and you can think you are ethical and you can think you have integrity and you can think you are honest, but do you live it? And I thank goodness for the preamble, because for today only, I get to practice and then I get to rest tonight and then I get to practice again tomorrow. And when I do it like that, it doesn't feel so huge and so overwhelming. But when I think of, oh my goodness, for 6 weeks, I'm going to be in a small confined space with my extended family, that can feel too much. But when I go, today, I'm doing this and arrive in the day, and so for today only, be compassionate. Then we have this building block.
Right. And I hear what you're saying there, and I'm thinking one could also get to a point where maybe some people can do 6 weeks and that's when they reach capacity. And maybe other people know that that might be too much for them. So would it be possible for the family then to accept that some people will only be doing 2 weeks, but they'll be fully present?
Yeah, exactly. Can we accept each other's uniqueness and needs?
And some people have to go back to jobs, they self-employed, whatever the situation is. Can we be grateful for the time we do get?
The less is more. For me, I would rather be with you for an hour in full presence than 3 weeks and we're kind of sort of there with your toe in the water, and to let each person choose what works for them. Which kind of brings me now to, so what is compassion?
Well, compassion is to suffer with, but there's a caveat according to the what I've researched. It's to be with somebody else in suffering and to have the desire, calling to help alleviate that. But as we say, that cannot happen if it doesn't start with self. We can try a version of it, but not really fully unless we do self. Because if you think about it, can I be with myself in that moment of suffering and take action to help alleviate it?
It's interesting because what immediately came to mind there is the people who do care work, or who, for example, are, say, in a medical profession. I mean, I know Reiki in medicine and in the medical world has escalated, and the work may have started with the patients, but one of the key developments has been Reiki for the caregivers, the doctors, the nurses, the people who are with the suffering of others, um, or the carer who takes care of the elderly, or the mother who takes care of children. I mean, if we go on with that example, compassion is a beautiful thing to have for others, but I absolutely agree with you. If you do not start with self-compassion, then indeed we're back to what is it that we're imparting to others then. And the other thing to say is compassion isn't pity.
No, definitely not. Um, just because when I do pity, I'm putting myself kind of like away from you. I'm distancing. I think if I'm suffering with, I'm moving towards you energetically. I'm not taking it on, but I am leaning in. Tell me more. How can I help? Let's, get you some comfort. Whereas if I pity you, maybe for me, the feeling is like I see myself higher than you.
Yeah. So then pity almost feels like looking down upon you. And we are saying all the time we are equal here and each of us is sovereign being. And I think in hearing that suffer with also felt like the need to say, suffer with doesn't mean I take on your suffering. It means to come back again to the way we approach Reiki, to offer presence. And I know we all slip into this. It's like a person is, say, venting, and you start off listening, and before you know it, you've got caught up in it. And the same with a person suffering. The idea is not to take it on. You can suffer with by offering presence, not by putting the stones in your own backpack.
Think of a lifeguard or even a swim coach. You're on the side on the beach. The lifeguard only jumps in when the person is in trouble, and he's always taking care of him because he's the one that's going to have to take the person out of the water. So you have to make sure that whoever you're rescuing is not going to pull you down. If you're not strong enough, you cannot get the lifeguard certificate. So you are jumping in, but it's not to your own detriment. Sometimes things happen, but when we're talking about compassion here, it doesn't help me or you if I want to take yours on. It's not really kindness, it's ego. If I want to take it away, am I going into hero role then? You know what I mean?
I like that lifeguard analogy. I really, really like it because that lifeguard, as you say, needs to be fit, healthy, strong enough to swim out to help the person in trouble. But if the lifeguard doesn't stay strong and healthy, they can't help the other. That is a beautiful way of looking at compassion as a metaphor. Self compassion first, self care, self nurturing, in order to then be able to extend help, but not diminishing self or diminishing other. And that's what you're saying here with the ego.
So that's that thing about taking care of self first. We also hear it when we're in the airplane. You first put on your own oxygen mask, right? You cannot help anybody if you haven't done that. So it always starts with self. And I can't help but mention the work of Kristen Neff. And it's basically about treating oneself with the same kindness and understanding that you would treat a friend during a difficult time. And so her three core elements, which she has about self compassion, is self kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And when she talks about the self kindness, she says it's treating yourself with the same kindness as you would a good friend. But then the common humanity part is to realize that everyone is suffering and everyone is struggling sometime, right? So it's more of a normalize it, and also understanding that the person that is coming towards me or sharing space with me is they've got their own suffering going on. Life comes with struggles sometimes, so we're all suffering from time to time. And then the mindfulness part is there to remind us to be in the present moment and neither to diminish or exaggerate your pain. So not judging it, not giving it a value, just, it's there, right?
Just that sense of presence, awareness, And as you say, not judging it, just noticing what you notice, as we like to say, and be aware and acknowledging.
Right. And then that takes me to the work of Tara Brach with her rain or radical compassion. And we have both kind of worked on our own and practiced that. And I love how learning to love yourself and the world that we live in can become easier if we learn the practice of rain. So R is for what we're saying. Notice what you notice. Recognize what's going on here. The A of rain is to allow whatever is to be as it is. No judgment here. And then I for investigate what's lying under it. What can I do? Where's it coming from? What's the trigger? What's the thought? What's the belief? How can I sit there and soften, be with it a little bit longer? Because we know what we avoid will persist. So, is there a way for me to be with a little bit longer so that I can lean in and almost like yoga? And yeah, you can talk about that, how yoga can help us move to the edge and just stay a little bit longer. And then the N would be for nurturing. What is the most loving, kind thing I can do for myself? An action that I can take, not just sit in that moment and suffer. Remember, compassion is about suffer with, which means acknowledge it's there and be with it a little bit longer, and then take action to alleviate. What can I do? Do I need a cup of tea? Do I need a nap? Do I need to excuse myself from this room? If my partner and I are having an argument, is it the time that I say, I'm starting to feel activated? Can I get 20 minutes to just step outside? That will be the nurturing part of rain. And of course, we need to practice this once again, like the family gatherings and the sandbox illustration, because we're not just going to remember it because we've heard it once. We have to kind of find scenarios to practice it at home. The good thing is you don't actually need other people because we can bring ourselves into suffering by what we think and how we talk to ourselves on a daily basis. And once we become aware of that, we can practice that rain right there and then.
You've brought up so many amazing things there. So, to come back to the first thing, yoga. So, years ago, a client joined me when I started taking yoga into nature. So, I now almost exclusively teach yoga in nature because I went through a phase where I realized we were trying to make the studio perfect, and the perfection with the right music and the right mat and the right pants did not mirror the world. But when we are in nature, there are challenges, or sometimes if you set up a perfect scenario, then you actually don't take the yoga off the mat and into the world. And I had this desire for, like the living Reiki, to live the yoga, to use those things as I went through the day, the breath, the practices, the skills that I learned. So I had a lady who joined me, and she'd previously only practiced in a studio, and she joined and she liked my approach, but then she took me aside and she said, I'm not sure that I can do this. I feel so irritated and annoyed by the wind, and the sand gets into my eyes, and was one of those moments where she opened a door and I could say to her, this is part of yoga. We have this idea that we step onto the mat and then we become all zen and calm, or we only step onto the mat when we're calm. In fact, doing the work with yoga, with Reiki, is actually having the compassion to put yourself on the mat when you're irritated and angry, and being present. This is that rain analogy now, to recognize this is the emotion that is here. This is the being who is here. This being is hurt. This being is annoyed. And to work with what surfaces. People often leave a yoga class or stop doing those types of activities because uncomfortable things come up. Well, this is the right place for them to come up. The beautiful story here is that client a decade later is still with me and says to me every time, this has been the greatest gift. This is the best studio in the world, and this has done so much for me, because to connect this to something else you were mentioning there, that self critic, that inner way that we talk to ourselves that's not so nice, that where we make ourselves suffer with our thoughts and how we speak to ourselves, that's is for this client a very challenging aspect, and I can identify with that. I catch myself where how I speak to me is not very compassionate. And how do you think that's going to relay then towards others?
Your client scenario reminds me of it, it's not the circumstance or the situation, it's how we respond to it that creates the suffering or not. Think about that. So, two things here. Yay, that gives me some kind of, I can take my power back, but oh, I need to take responsibility and hold myself accountable for my reality I'm creating. So it's liberating with responsibility at the same time, which is so similar to what life is. There's always this a bittersweet moment. It's like, yes, that's progress, but you have to grow your comfort zone or something to go forward, right? So it's the moving of life. We're constantly evolving. And so, I was listening to you say how you criticize yourself. We all do that. And the most compassionate thing I just realized when we're in that space is to think of the version of me that just criticized me was already gone. That was me then. Now that I'm aware, I'm a new person. Well, for this minute anyway. If I don't fall asleep at the wheel and I keep going, staying present, I will get to leave the critical version of me behind slowly, because it's going to take practice over time. But you, you see where I'm going with this?
I do. And that's where we want to avoid. I see it in myself. It's like in our pre-recording, I was saying in the last few weeks, things that I addressed in this year, and this is also in line with the astrology of this year, it's like it was sort of said that some things will come back up, and they have. And for a moment, I forgot that, and I was like, oh, why are these things here again? And I'm like, well, it is like this awareness. And as you say, when you become aware now, I can now look and go, well, there is still some of this self-criticism, but it is very different from what was like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So you can also in that moment have like that, I sense that this is shifting. And as you say, the moment you are aware of it, you've become that new you.
Correct. Even if it's momentarily, because we have to factor in that even with forward growth, part of that has relapse in it. Because we have programs. We've been programmed since kids. And so those things are deep grooves that when we fall asleep at the wheel, not driving, but driving our life, we're not present. So then the patterns are going to drive us, right? So the blueprints that have been put into us are going to start coming up again, the ones that are outdated. The version of your computer Windows 3 is going to start running again, where you're now at Windows 10 or whatever. Um, yeah, you're going to revert back to the old unconsciousness.
And that's again, then you become aware, and then there's a moment to sit with that, not to judge, to be compassionate to that one. What's still here that needs loving, that needs compassion. And yeah, also something that you were saying just now is embodying it. It's to live it and it's to feel it. And it's like, oh, here it is again. And then not to, as you say, just when you notice that old programming, if you resist it, as you were saying, then it just needs to shout louder.
Yeah, I have a person that I've worked with that has shared with me how when any situation shows up, the first thing she does is be grateful for it. I mean, this person has really been doing a lot of spiritual work for a very long time. But I'm talking about that because gratitude is one of the precepts in Reiki. Now, think about it. When we become aware of the fact that the old pattern is showing up again, and I've just, dare I say, regressed a little bit, you could go to judgment there, and then whatever comes after that, the blame, the shame, the guilt, or whatever. Or you can go into, now I can work with you. Now I can practice rain. Now I can practice self-compassion. Because when we practice those things, that's when we embody it. Now, if I don't have a spiritual gym to go to, I can never learn. I can learn the theory, but I can't apply it. I don't know how to apply it.
Yeah, it all stays theoretical. So it is that moment where that icky, sticky, whatever it is, pops up, and your knee jerk reaction is to resist. But then it needs to speak louder, stick around longer. Whereas, as you say, if you can go with curiosity and with wonder, go like, why is this here again? And just notice, then, as you say, you can get to the place where you go, I am actually grateful this has come up, because this is an opportunity to let go of this, to work with this, to practice the compassion.
Right. To recognize it's coming up without the judgment, and then to allow it to be there. So, just, okay, so you showed up. Cool. Now let's look at it. And now let's help myself by nurturing myself to not stay in it, right? And move into a different way of being.
And it's hard, because now I want to pop back to last episode's precept. How honest can you be with yourself? It's hard to look at those not so nice parts of ourselves and stay present.
Right. And maybe it's about how honest can I be with myself in this moment? If I'm running on little capacity, maybe this is this is all I can see right now, right? I can't see more than I can see. But when I'm fully present, because I'm not at capacity, I can handle being more honest with myself. I'm glad you brought up honesty, because it's easy for us, we're judgy people, most of us, to be so honest, we're unkind to ourselves. So, honesty without compassion to self or others is brutal.
Yeah, so they actually need to go hand in hand. And so, yeah, now when you look at the precepts, they're not these isolated moments, do the one, do the other. They have this sort of sequence and integration as to a route map to today and to every day.
Right. Because how can I be honest if I'm really honest? Like really, really honest. And I'm not kind to myself. That could be suffering. I can create a lot of suffering now, right? Unnecessary suffering. Because we're a work in progress, so we're never there. We're always getting better, hopefully. Some days we slip back. And even in the slipping back, we need to be compassionate so that we can slip forward again. Because if we're not, we're going to keep on slipping back.
I think we've done good work here today and we've looked at many aspects and we have begun to do what we will continue in our next episode, and that is to pull all the precepts together and show how they are this route map, this daily practice that helps us navigate. Are there any final words you want to say around be compassionate to self and others?
I always want to say this, that these are not strict formulas, because if we start with thinking it has to be a certain way and I'm not there, it's very harsh on ourselves. So hold it lightly. Definitely for me, rain was a new concept for me when I started. But maybe what I would want to give people is to go and look at the work of Tara Brach and Kristen Neff and see if there's anything there that you can work with maybe in your daily life, because these are very easy principles to understand but difficult to implement. But they really can make an incredible difference to the quality of the day, the moment, especially when you're going through a hard time. And for those of us who are currently not going through a hard time, it's important to remember most people are. Everybody is struggling with something. Because then, if we are truly coming from compassion, we will act in kindness, because that's kind of the verb of compassion. Kind is how you show up when the intention is to be compassionate as a human being. And gosh, I think the world can do with a boatload full of kindness right now to self and others.
Yeah, and again, that's circling back to self because it's very hard to be kind to another if you don't first show up and show some kindness to self.
And I think put a little bit of a feeler out there, because some brains might go, why? Why am I doing all of this? We want to live in joy and harmony. Most of us love peace, joy, and harmony. And unless we discover what are the stumbling blocks or the boulders, we can't really get there. And staying in struggle or making it hard on ourselves is one of those stumbling blocks. So if we can learn the art of compassion, self-compassion, we're moving forward, right, to a more joyful, harmonious, peaceful life.
And to taking responsibility for your own well being as a sovereign being. So now we are back to something you started referring to in our last episode. It's that sense of self responsibility, self governing, and self correcting. And then the world is easier the more of us who show up and say, yes, I am willing to show up and take responsibility for my well being, and that is my contribution to the world.
That's beautifully said. I love that.
I seem to get very tearful at the end of every episode.
Because, I something touched your soul, touched your heart. So
I think what's touching my heart is the work and how amazing Reiki is. I mean, I've referred to this several times now over the course of this series, how I ended up in a moment where I was literally kneeling in the dirt and I decided to re-embrace Reiki. And I still have challenging days, and then I remember how much I've shifted. But this Reiki journey has also brought us together, and we're doing this as our own journey of growth, and we are now also sharing it with others. So for me, it's just profound. It was like a moment of, this is so poignant. It really pierces my heart in the best way.
Right. And I think it reminds me of what we said and before we went online. In any given moment, maybe the saying is let go and let Reiki.
I love that. And Reiki's always here. It's just we forget.
We want to and let Reiki just do the work.
And with that, I hope you have a beautiful Reiki filled day, which you will do because Reiki is always there, but that you remember it is there, because this is this journey of remembering who we are.
Yeah, and reclaiming our sovereign energy and taking responsibility to keep that.
Shine our light, be true to our own essence, and show up sovereign.
Love that.
Have a beautiful day. And next time we will do a wrapping up of the Reiki precepts, and we will also announce our upcoming launch of our website.
Drum roll. Yep, super excited about wrapping it up and, pulling everything together in the next episode. But we have a whole month to go and practice that compassion for self and others.
Good luck, because as Ram Dass said, you think you're enlightened? Go spend time with your family.
Yeah, you
Lots of love.
lots of love and laughter. Bye bye.
Bye.